Final word with me and him. Virat Kohli doesn't do loads of interviews, Jeff. Not one-on-one. Not the sort of interviews that,
No.
he does bits.
He does more interviewing than he does interviews. He's always popping up going, here I am with my good friend Patrick Cummins, and I'd like to ask you a few questions. But yes, he's rarely the talent.
And
Except
did a
for
long
that
one.
The walkthrough of his T20 World Cup innings against Pakistan that they kept playing during all the rain breaks at the World Cup.
I mean, he's been accessible to media, but he doesn't do press conferences in the traditional sense anymore. And I mean, if we asked to speak to him on the final word, for example, these things don't really. He's beyond that point in his career, well and truly. But it's through RCB's season starting again in a couple of weeks that Isha Gua did an interview with him, and that's always going to prompt headlines. A couple of them that were run across the wider media. He said that the disappointment of his performances in Australia during the Border Gavaskar outstripped the disappointment of England 2014, which he described as his previous lowest point in Test cricket. So he said there the intensity of the disappointment is the most fresh and feels the most intense to him. He said that he spent the whole tour constantly trying to fix what was going wrong, and that's what it looks like. The lived experience of watching Kohli is that he was just trying to find some way to stop getting nicked off. And we all wanted. I mean, I wanted nothing more than Kohli to have a big influence in that series. But after bullying Australia in the second dig at Perth when they were totally cooked, he just did not have an influence whatsoever. So interesting having that reflection from someone at the point of the game that he's at, right at the very apex of world cricket, that even he can go through a period of cricket where he's trying to find himself and work out what on earth is going on, reminding us that he's human.
Well, in a way, he did have an influence in Australia's favour because he was always the wicket that would supercharge the bowling charge when Australia were getting on top, because India struggled with the bat after Perth consistently. There were moments, there were points of resistance like through that, the Reddy innings at the MCG and so on. But basically, that series was a story of India clinging on after taking that early lead and not being able to quite hold on. But it was always that battle, that byplay, that sort of that individual contest between the Australian bowlers and Kohli was the thing that seemed to define the energy of so many of the innings. And each time they got the better of him. And sometimes when he hung in there for a while, it was even better for Australia when they got him out, because he'd shown some resistance. He'd been able to hang on for a bit, and then he would still be drawn into that shot. And there was this feeling of kind of collapsing energy in the Indian team because he was trying and trying and trying and still wasn't able to crack it. Somehow the magnets in his gloves would just be drawn to the ball eventually, even if he managed to resist for a while. So it was quite compelling to watch how impulsive it became and how unable he was to find a solution across 10 innings.
Yeah, I respect the vulnerability too in opening up about that challenge. The easy thing would be to brazen it out and just disregard it and go focused on the next thing. But happy to look in the rear vision mirror on the next thing. He discussed how conversations with Rahul Dravid in relation to like how you need to know the right time yourself to finish up. So it's not like there's some arbitrary time for him or some moment. Although, in passing, he made reference to Australia next time, right? He kind of said, it'll probably be the last time I go there or something to that effect. So you couldn't rule out him being the kind of guy who finds something akin to what Stephen Smith's found in the last 6 months. And to start again, it'll be very interesting to see how he goes in England against what will inevitably be a similar kind of attack. Moving Duke's ball, who knows, that might be incentive enough to get Dan Worrell in that test team, knowing that Worrell to Kohli would be the type of bowler that Scott Boland has been to Kohli. So we'll keep an eye on that one. He also, I wouldn't say...
If he goes through to the World Cup in 2027, and then that's the end of the Future Tours program, and what would the first thing Australia try to do be? It will be jam in 5 tests against India at home. Would be the earliest opportunity. So 2027-8 summer might well be an India tour of Australia.
Not a crazy thought. He also, you could say broke ranks, I don't know, with the BCCI position around families on tour. And remembering that's not exactly what was said in that memo. It was more around paying your own way if you want to bring it on.
They just said you can pay for them.
You want to bring your auntie. You want to bring your auntie. But the very fact that he felt the need to sort of reflect on that, I suppose, shows that he may not have shared the view that was expressed by team management when they returned from Australia, having been sort of soundly beaten in that Border Gavaskar 3-1, at least in terms of the final analysis. So That was the Kohli interview, and the IPL's not far away. It'll pick up after the WPL, which is now complete. Jeff, I know you were keeping an eye on this a bit closer than I was during the weekend. Mumbai winning the tournament as they did in 2023. Harmanpreet Kaur gets the job done, a two-time WPL winning captain. They had to do it the hard way because Delhi qualified top, so Mumbai needed to beat Gujarat and then beat Delhi, and they did so on both occasions.
And, Harmanpreet's had a habit of being there but not quite in the finals that India have played, the global finals, but did the job here, made 66 off 44 balls, pushed Mumbai up to 149, which is a pretty good score in those kind of conditions. And, Delhi ran them close, made 141 themselves, but they were 9 down at the time, so relying on the lower order to try to get them there. Couldn't quite do it. 8 runs the margin in the end. So Harmanpreet's player of the match and captain in the winning final. A big career item for her.
Norm Smith medal of sorts for Harmanpreet, best on ground in the grand final. Nat Siva-Brunt, 77 from 41 in the semi, and then 3 for 30 in the final, reinforcing what a damaging all-rounder that she is. And just sticking with England, they're actually coming back out to Australia, the women, to play a multi-format series. This has been in the schedule for a long time. They're trying to replicate the women's Ashes, but with the A teams. It's being played in the autumn, so the white ball game's from the 26th of March, and it finishes with a 3-day game. It's a 4-day game, isn't it? They're playing an unofficial test match to finish at the 3-day game.
Sorry, the warm-up's 3 days, but the unofficial game test to be 4.
Yeah, so that's all coming up. So the Australian green and gold game was over the weekend, which is the warm-up for the multi-day game, a 3-day match, as you described before, where CA Green were defiant in their victory over CA Gold by 121 runs. The main things to take
40.
from this is that Katie Mack made an unbeaten 100. And she's part of that. And
Secret world of.
So that's like, I guess what you would say is that what they're trying to do here, and it makes an awful lot of sense to me, is they are trying to make sure that multi-day cricket isn't just a thing you do once every 2 or 3 years if you just happen to be in the test team at the time. So England A against Australia A, Australia green against Australia gold. It's future-proofing. You don't want to get the player caught out never having really had this opportunity to play like that. And we heard that from both England and Australian players when we were covering test matches going back 4 or 5 years. They would say, this is the only red ball game or pink ball game that we play. So the Aussie squads have been announced over the week. Captaining that is Heather Graham with the T20 squad. And then Nicole Fulton's captaining the 1-day squad, and she's also captaining the 4-day game. She made a 50, Nicole Fulton, in the game that I was referring to a moment ago.
It's interesting how much seniority they're suddenly investing in her, taking her to New Zealand on that trip, even though they had Mooney in the side, and now captaincy of 2 of the 3 teams here. That is an interesting. That's quite a big step.
England's got their squad named as well, so this is more relatively the same squads because they're bringing a touring party out. But some names that we haven't seen in a little while, and some others who have had an opportunity in recent times. Grace Scrivens there from Essex, who is a player who's clearly got a big future ahead of her. Holly Armitage, who's had her opportunities and used that the previous structure, because of course we're now into the new tiered system. So she'll be at Durham in top tier this year, but previously playing up at the Northern Superchargers. But Holly Armitage, who debuted last summer. Alice Capsey is out there as well. She was part of the unsuccessful Ashes squad, but you can see why they're trying to invest in Capsey and give her more cricket in Australia.
This is what jumps out at me. So Rihanna McDonald-Gay is in 2 of these teams as well. Having bowled about 1 million overs in that test match and had about 15 catches dropped off her bowling. So her and Capsey, having been part of that absolutely miserable tour, finally getting to wind up and leave at the very end of January, and then middle of March, like back
on the plane.
Do it again. 3 T20s, 3 ODIs, 4-day game.
If they were bringing out like Danny White and Tammy Beaumont, that might jump out a bit more. They're young cricketers and they're trying to get as many miles in the legs as they can. And others who've been in the England team and been match winning, like Maddie Villiers and Izzy Wong. It is interesting that and Mahika Gower, of course, who we've been huge fans of, and having watched her a couple of years ago as an outstanding breakout star of the Fair Break tournament in Hong Kong. Having got her international debut back in 2023 as well. So some quality players coming out.
For the whole Women's Ashes, didn't she? So she'll actually get to play this time.
So as I said before, they've got T20s from the 26th and the 4-day game is out at Silverwater. I said off the top of the show, Jeff, that we would finish with a fun one. This is the women's qualifier, the America's women qualifier that I teed up last week. It's been a really low-scoring affair. Let's just start there. So Brazil got rolled for 29. Not ideal. When they were knocked off in the first game of the tournament by the USA. But then they defended 69 for 8 against Argentina and rolled Argentina for 44. Nicole Monteiro taking 5 for 7. So I had my Brazil playing top on over the weekend, Jeff. We did a final word park run down at Suffolk with a bunch of our Edinburgh runners, which was a really nice way. At like 2 degrees, I had. It was freezing, but getting around in that Brazil cricket top, a few people, who clearly have some understanding of the game were interested in that. But that was a nice thing to do. There's still room in the Taverners team. I should note too that if you want to be part of what we're doing in Edinburgh with Jeff and me and many, many others, do let me know as soon as you can at adam@finalwordcricket.com and I'll link you up with the Taverners. But yeah, so with a game to go, to cut to the car chase here, there's a massive blockbuster coming up tomorrow, well, it's today, but tomorrow in terms of when we're recording it with the time difference, between the USA and Canada. It's winner takes all. Only one team goes through the global qualifier. And the USA have got an amazing net run rate because they bowled out Brazil for 29. Now, why are Canada in this position? Having already beaten the USA in their first group game, why are Canada in strife? Well, because Argentina rolled them by 1 run. Argentina made 95 for 4, and then they rolled Canada for 94 from the final ball. Absolute carnage. The last 4 wickets were all run-outs, including 2 from the final 2 balls of the game when they needed 2 runs to win. So, Argentina having, won earlier. Argentina beat the USA earlier in the group stage as well. So you've got to love associate cricket and the way these things bounce around. They're an interesting team, Argentina, because they've had sort of an English influence there. Nick Friend, who is an outstanding journo at the Cricketer, and Sian Kelly, who had a big involvement as an assistant coach at Fairbreak. She's the twin sister of Marie Kelly, who's a prominent England domestic cricketer who's got the fastest 50 ever or something like that, I think, with Marie. But yeah, so they've had those coaches over the years and now taking out big scalps. They're not going to qualify. Argentina and Brazil are out. They won't make it to the global qualifier. It'll be one of Canada or America. But I love the fact that there have been teams knocking each other off that really shouldn't. And part of the charm of associate cricket as they try and fight their way up to the top table.
And if Nick Friend's out there coaching national sides, why can't we go and coach a national side? Why can't we pick somebody, pick someone who's got no money, do it for free, head out and live wherever for 6 months, learn the language, do some coaching, see if we can get a team into a T20 World Cup.
Well, what I would say is that Nick's a very accomplished coach. That would have been the context around him doing that. I think he did it when he was at university. He was out there studying or something like that. But, my wider point here is that there are a lot of connections back to UK cricket in all of that, as there is with Brazil, obviously. And we will follow their progress throughout the course of 2025 in the usual way. Jeff, that is the end of our weekly show. I mentioned it briefly before, but Taverners team training going beautifully. Lots of running going on from lots of different people. If you want to do the 10K, do it. Don't be shy. I'm going to name her. Georgie Heath got in touch yesterday, another colleague of ours from Freelance Land, and said that she's interested in coming up to Edinburgh with us. She's available to come up to Edinburgh with us. So, you can make last minute plans, and hopefully Georgie will be part of our team when we go to Edinburgh with 50-odd Final Word runners. We're trying to raise £30,000 for the Taverners in their 75th birthday. So it's a great event. It really is the best weekend of the year in Final Word land. If you don't know anyone from the show, it doesn't matter. You'll meet plenty of people, including Jeff and me, and it will be a weekend that you don't regret signing up to. So adam@finalwordcricket.com, be part of the fun.
All right. I'm convinced. I'm going. Finally talked me into it. So if I'm going, you can go as well. Help us do some good things for a good cause. That's it. That's the end of the show. If you want to be part of what we do, patreon.com/thefinalword. That's where you get the ad-free feed, the one without the automated ad breaks. You get to send us a nerd pledge if you want to be part of Storytime and have us decode your cricket story. You can be part of the online community on Discord where everyone's chatting up up a storm about whatever's going on in the cricket world and organising their tours to various different countries and talking about their new recipes and their pets and their travel plans and all of the other wholesome stuff that's going on there. And you can help us keep making this show several times a week.
You can indeed, and yeah, that's right. Around the lots of travel plans that are going on for later in the year, and yes, the last two story times that we've made have been really good eps. So if you haven't had a chance to go back and listen to them, we've been in pretty good form, I reckon. I'm going to take a couple of story times off to get some other work done over the next fortnight. But Jeff, you will be joined by one of our band of outstanding co-hosts. We've got some really fun eps coming up in the feed as well. Another book club, which I reckon a lot of people will enjoy. An interview with one of the greats of the England game, which will be the next episode in the feed, another story time, and on it goes. So patreon.com/thefinalword to help us keep doing what we do. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been The Final Word with Adam Collins and Jeff Lemon. We'll talk again soon. Bye.
See ya.